Anna sat in the dimly lit living room, staring out of the large window. Her reflection in the glass was blurred, but the emptiness she felt inside was crystal clear. She had tried so hard for so long to make things work with David. But after years of constant tension, arguments, and feelings of being invisible, Anna had finally reached her breaking point. She looked over at David, who was sitting in his usual spot on the couch, watching TV. He didn't even glance up when she walked past him. This was the life she had come to know, one where she wasn't heard, one where she felt as if she didn't matter. The constant needling, the criticism, the control, it had all become too much. Every day was a struggle, and now, after everything that had happened, she knew something had to change. Anna's heart raced with a mix of anger and determination. She had been planning this moment for weeks, carefully gathering what she needed to finally break free. Her clothes, her jewelry, and most importantly, her savings, all packed away, ready to be taken. She was leaving David behind. She was going to start a new life, one where she didn't feel small, one where she was in control again. With a deep breath, Anna stood up, making sure not to make a sound. She moved to the bedroom, where the suitcase sat open on the bed. She zipped it shut with purpose. As she stood there, holding the suitcase, she hesitated for a moment. What was she really doing? Was this the right choice? She pushed the thoughts away. The answer was clear. She had been suffocating in this relationship for so long. She deserved more than this, more than the endless hurt and rejection. The house was eerily quiet now, except for the soft hum of the TV. David was oblivious to her movements, his eyes glued to the screen. His indifference to her presence had always stung, but tonight it was a relief. She was leaving, and he didn't even care enough to notice. She walked to the front door, her hands trembling slightly. She couldn't stop herself now. She had made up her mind. Anna paused as she reached for the doorknob. The weight of the moment was finally hitting her. This was it. She was about to step out of this house and leave everything behind. Her marriage, her life with David. The thought almost made her hesitate, but she pushed it aside. She couldn't live like this anymore. She had no choice. She glanced back at David once more. His head was still turned toward the TV, his face expressionless. He had no idea. No idea what was coming. No idea that she was slipping away from him. For good. She smiled to herself, a quiet satisfaction filling her chest. In a way, this was her victory. She had endured for far too long, and now, she was free. As Anna opened the door, a rush of cool air hit her face. The night was quiet, and the streetlights cast a soft glow on the pavement. She took a deep breath, savoring the sense of freedom that washed over her. She stepped outside and closed the door behind her, the sound of it clicking shut ringing in her ears. She walked briskly to her car, her steps quickening with every movement. She was leaving David and everything he represented. The man she had tried to love, the man who had never truly seen her. He would never understand. He would never know what it was like to feel trapped, to feel like nothing more than a shadow in her own life. As Anna started the engine and drove away, she could still feel the heat of the argument lingering in her chest, but it was quickly replaced by a sense of liberation. The road stretched out in front of her, endless and full of possibilities. She was free. She could go anywhere, do anything. No more rules, no more restrictions. She could finally live. For herself. The thoughts in her mind swirled together, a mixture of excitement and apprehension. But one thing was certain. She was done with David. She had taken everything she could, and now she was moving on. It didn't matter what he did or how he reacted. She had won. She was out. Nothing could stop her now. As she drove down the full, quiet streets, her hands still gripping the steering wheel tightly, she felt a strange sense of calm settle over her. This was the beginning of something new, something better. And as the city lights twinkled in the distance, she couldn't help but smile, her heart lightening with every mile. But in the back of her mind, a small voice whispered, did she really leave it all behind? The suspense hung in the air, as though the answer would only reveal itself when the time was right. As Anna's car sped through the night, the streets gradually giving way to unfamiliar scenery, she felt a mix of exhilaration and guilt. She had done it. She had walked away from the man who had become a stranger to her, and in doing so, she'd taken back control of her life. The weight of the suitcase in the back seat seemed symbolic, a representation of all the things she had packed away, both the material items and the years of emotional baggage. But something gnawed at her. She tried to shake the feeling, but it lingered. It was like a shadow creeping up from the corners of her mind. She hadn't looked back at David, hadn't even spared a second thought about him as she left. And yet, the idea that he would somehow notice her absence, and maybe even try to stop her, kept invading her thoughts. Anna's grip tightened on the steering wheel, her knuckles turning white. She could hear her thoughts swirling in the silence. The car. He won't even care. He didn't care before. Why would he now? But a small voice inside her said otherwise. A whisper of doubt. She could almost see it. The house she had left behind, the empty rooms, the place where they had once shared laughter and love, before it all faded into bitterness and resentment. She tried to push it away. She had made the right choice. Hadn't she? Her hands relaxed as she forced herself to breathe slowly. She needed to stay focused on the future, not the past. There was no turning back now. She had taken everything she needed, everything she deserved. Her phone buzzed suddenly, breaking her out of her thoughts. She glanced at the screen, seeing a text from her best friend, Mia. "Are you okay? I saw you left. What happened?" Anna's fingers hovered over the screen. The text was innocent enough, but it made her pause. She hadn't told Mia she was leaving, not because she didn't want to, but because in the chaos of the decision, there hadn't been time. There was no need to explain, no need for anyone to try to talk her out of it. Still, she couldn't ignore it. She typed back quickly, "I'm fine. Just needed a change. I'll be okay." The reply came almost immediately. "If you need to talk, I'm here for you." For a moment, Anna's heart softened. She had friends who cared, people who would support her, even though David never had. But then the heaviness returned, the weight of her own actions, the uncertainty of what lay ahead. Was it really possible to start fresh, to leave everything behind and not look back? As the miles passed, her phone remained silent. No more messages, no more calls. Just the quiet hum of the car and the passing landscape. It wasn't until the sun began to rise, painting the sky with soft shades of pink and orange, that Anna realized how far she had driven. She wasn't even sure where she was anymore, just that she had put miles of distance between herself and David. Eventually, she decided to pull over. She needed a break. She hadn't really thought about where to go next. Was she supposed to head toward a new city? Find a new place to stay? As she stepped out of the car and took a deep breath, she realized she had no plan. She didn't know what came next. Her whole life had revolved around David and the unhappy life they'd shared, and now she was free. But free of what? A marriage? Or the years of pain that had built up between them? The sound of the wind and the chirping of birds in the distance was almost soothing. She needed time to think. She found a small diner nearby and walked in, taking a seat at the counter. The waitress, a friendly woman in her 40s, offered a smile and handed Anna a menu. "You traveling?" the waitress asked, noticing Anna's worn appearance and tired eyes. Anna paused. She hadn't even thought about it. Was she traveling? Where was she headed? Just getting away, Anna replied softly. The waitress nodded, sensing Anna's hesitation but not pushing further. Anna ordered a cup of coffee and sat in silence, letting the sound of the diner and the normalcy of life around her soothe her mind. The coffee was warm, comforting in a way she hadn't realized she needed. But all the while, she couldn't shake the thought that David would eventually come looking for her. He would realize what she had done, and then the real consequences would begin. The life she had hoped to build, free from him, free from the lies, seemed further away than it ever had before. Anna drained her coffee, paid for it, and left the diner. The quiet road stretched out before her once again, the world full of possibilities and fears. Was she truly ready for the next step? Would David even care that she was gone? Or would he simply let her walk away without a word? The suspense still hung thick in the air, the questions unanswered. Anna could feel it closing in, and deep down she knew that what happened next would change everything. Days had passed since Anna's bold decision to leave, but the weight of her choice still hung over her. Every morning, she woke up in an unfamiliar bed, surrounded by strangers in a town that wasn't hers. She hadn't planned on staying long in any one place, just moving from motel to motel, but the feeling of freedom wasn't as fulfilling as she had imagined. The excitement of starting over had slowly faded, replaced with loneliness and doubt. At night, she still thought of David, of their house, their life together. Had she made a mistake? Was she selfish for leaving him behind? Or had she truly been suffocating, clinging to a past that was no longer hers to keep? She told herself over and over that she had done the right thing. That leaving was her chance to be happy, to find herself again. But sometimes the silence in her hotel room made her question everything. On the fourth evening, just as she was about to turn off the TV and go to bed, her phone buzzed. The text was from Mia again. "Anna, I don't know what happened, but I'm worried. I haven't heard from you. Please let me know you're okay." Anna stared at the message for a moment before typing back quickly, her fingers trembling slightly. "I'm fine, just figuring things out. I'll be okay, I promise." She hit send before she could think better of it. Her phone buzzed again almost immediately, but this time it wasn't a text. It was a voicemail. Her heart skipped a beat as she pressed play. "Anna, it's David," came the strained voice on the other end. "I've been looking everywhere for you. I don't know what happened, but I know I screwed up. I should have treated you better. I didn't realize how bad things were, but I do now. If you're listening to this, please, just come home. We can fix it. I want to fix it, please." For a long moment, Anna didn't know how to react. Her chest tightened and she felt a wave of emotions rush over her. There was guilt, anger, but also something deeper, something that made her stomach churn. The man she had left behind was asking her to come back. After everything, after the years of hurt and resentment, David was asking for another chance. She hadn't expected this. She hadn't expected him to fight for her. It was like the tables had turned. Now she was the one standing at a crossroads, unsure of which path to take. Her mind raced with questions. What did he mean by fix it? Was this genuine? Or was he just trying to manipulate her? Could she even trust him again? The phone call wasn't the only thing that had her rattled. She hadn't expected to hear from him so soon, but something else felt off. It wasn't just David's words that echoed in her mind. It was the way he said, "I want to fix it." There was desperation in his voice, a rawness that made her doubt whether he was truly ready to change or if he was simply scared of being alone. She stood up and paced the room. Her hands were shaking. Should she call him back? Should she give him another chance? Could she? Before she could think further, her phone buzzed again. This time, the message wasn't from David, but from a number she didn't recognize. It was a voicemail. Her heart pounded as she pressed play. "Anna, it's me, Mia. I found something you need to see. It's about David. You won't believe it." A cold chill ran down her spine. What could Mia possibly know? Was this related to David's message? What could he have possibly done that Mia thought she needed to share with Anna? Anna's hand shook as she dialed Mia's number, desperate for answers. The phone rang twice before Mia picked up. "Anna." Mia's voice was urgent. "I don't know how to say this, but I think you need to hear this." Anna felt her pulse quicken. "What is it? What's going on?" "David," Mia began, her voice lowering. "He's been seeing someone else. I didn't want to believe it, but I found proof. There are texts, pictures. I don't know what you're going to do with this, but you need to know the truth. Words hit Anna like a punch to the gut. She could feel the world around her starting to collapse. She had left David because she thought he didn't care, because she thought he didn't value her. But the idea that he had been seeing someone else, it shattered everything she had believed. For a moment, Anna couldn't speak. She was numb, as if the ground had been pulled out from beneath her. Her mind was racing, but all she could hear was the sound of her own breath. "I'm sorry, Anna." Mia's voice was soft, filled with concern. "But I thought you needed to know." The silence on the other end of the line stretched on, as Anna struggled to process everything. She had left David to find freedom, to escape the lies. But had she truly escaped? Or had she simply walked away from one kind of pain into another? Anna didn't know what to do. She didn't know what to believe anymore. As the tension built, she realized that the choices ahead of her weren't as simple as she once thought. The truth had a way of complicating things, and now she was caught in a web of lies and regrets, unsure of what was real and what had been hiding beneath the surface all along. The weight of Mia's words hung over Anna like a thick fog. She couldn't shake the feeling of betrayal that now twisted deep within her. David had been seeing someone else? All this time, while she was working up the courage to leave, was he building another life behind her back? She sat down on the edge of the bed, her mind racing. How could she have been so blind? All those late nights when he told her he was busy with work, was it really work? How many times had she let excuses slide, telling herself everything was fine, telling herself it wasn't so bad? Tears welled up in her eyes, but she quickly wiped them away. She wouldn't cry. Not anymore. Not for him. Her thoughts were a whirlwind. She thought of the night she left, when she thought she was finally free, the relief, the triumph she had felt when she walked away from him. But now it felt hollow. Was David the man she thought he was? Or had she been living in a fantasy, clinging to a version of him that never existed? A knock at the door startled her. It was as if reality had come crashing back in with that simple sound. She stood up and opened it, half expecting it to be Mia, wanting to talk more, but instead it was a letter, handed to her by a delivery man. "Special delivery," he said with a polite smile, handing her the envelope. Anna stared at it, confused. It had no return address, just her name written, in elegant handwriting. She opened it, tearing the envelope with shaky fingers. Inside, there was a single page of paper with just a few lines of text. It read, "Anna, I'm sorry for everything. I made mistakes I can never undo. But I can prove to you that I've changed. Come back and give me one last chance. Meet me at the place where we first met. I need to make this right." Her heart skipped a beat. The words, though simple, carried so much weight. It was David's handwriting, the familiar, uneven letters she had seen so many times before. But this wasn't just an apology. This was something else, something deeper. He was asking her to come back, to meet him in the place where it all began. It felt like a final plea, an attempt to reclaim everything that had slipped through his fingers. She stood there, staring at the letter. A mix of emotions stirred inside her. Could she trust him? Could she believe that he was really sorry? Or was this just another desperate attempt to pull her back into a life that had once felt like a prison? The question lingered in the air, unanswered. But one thing was certain. David wasn't giving up that easily. He was willing to fight for her, to prove that he could change. But was it too late? Had she already moved on, too far gone from the life they had shared? As Anna stood in the doorway, the letter clutched in her hand, she realized that this decision wasn't just about David. It was about her. About what she wanted. About whether she could ever truly forgive him, and whether the person she had once been was still the person she wanted to be. The hours ticked by as she sat on the edge of the bed, the letter still in her hands. She couldn't shake the pull to go back, to confront everything that had once defined her. But the thought of returning to that house, to that life, made her stomach churn. Could she trust David again? Could she really take a chance on him when everything inside her screamed that it might just be another broken promise? As night fell, She made a decision. She wasn't going to rush this. She wasn't going to make another hasty choice based on emotions or guilt. If David truly wanted her back, if he truly wanted to fix what they had, then he would have to prove it to her, and Anna would decide, not based on what he said, but on what he showed her. Her mind was made up, but her heart remained torn. There was only one way to find out if he was truly sorry. There was only one way to know if he had really changed. She would meet him, not because she was sure of it, but because she needed to see for herself. If David could truly prove he was different, maybe, just maybe, there was a chance for them to rebuild what had been broken. With a deep breath, Anna picked up her phone and texted Mia. "I'm going to meet him. I need to see this for myself." Mia's reply came quickly. "Be careful, Anna. People don't change overnight. Don't let him hurt you again." Anna read the message and nodded to herself. Mia was right. But this was her decision. She had to face it on her own. Tomorrow she would. Go back to the place where it all began. To the house she had left behind, to the life she had tried to escape. Anna couldn't sleep the night before. She kept thinking about the letter, about the words David had written. She could hear them echoing in her head as she got dressed, as she brushed her hair, as she tied her shoes. "Come back and give me one last chance." She had read those words over and over until they no longer felt like David's plea, but more like a command. Was she ready for this? She stood in front of the mirror, staring at her reflection. The woman staring back at her was different from the one who had left all those months ago. She felt stronger now, wiser. She had walked away from him once. Could she do it again? Could she finally be free? But still, the pull to return to him was undeniable. It wasn't just love. It was a longing for closure, for understanding. What had truly happened between them? What had gone wrong? Was David really the man she had fallen in love with all those years ago? Or had he become someone else entirely? The ride to the place where it all started felt like an eternity. Anna drove in silence, her mind racing. The familiar streets seemed to blur around her, like they were part of some dream she couldn't wake up from. She passed the same old coffee shop, the same park where they had picnicked in the early days of their marriage. Everything felt frozen in time. She pulled up to their old house, the one she had walked away from. It looked just as it always had. The flower beds he used to care for with so much attention were still there, though slightly overgrown. The porch, light flickered faintly as if waiting for someone to return. Anna took a deep breath, then stepped out of the car. The sound of her heels clicking on the pavement echoed in the quiet air. She walked up the steps slowly, her heart beating faster. With every step, this was it, the moment of truth. She could feel the weight of the decision pressing on her chest, making it hard to breathe. She rang the doorbell. The door opened, and there he was, David. His face was older, the lines around his eyes deeper, but his presence still held that same undeniable charm. His eyes locked with hers, and for a moment neither of them spoke. "Anna," he said, his voice soft but filled with emotion. "You came." She didn't know what to say. She had so many questions, so many things she needed to understand. She just nodded, stepping inside when he stepped aside to let her in. The house smelled the same, a mix of old wood and the faint scent of lavender. It felt familiar. Too familiar. David gestured toward the living room where they used to sit together for hours, talking about everything and nothing. He motioned for her to take a seat, and she did, her eyes scanning the room. Everything was in its place, as if time had stood still here while everything around them had changed. "You're probably wondering why I asked you to come back," David said, sitting across from her. He didn't wait for her to speak, his words rushing out. "I've thought about nothing but you since the day you left. I know I made mistakes and I know I've hurt you, but I need you to understand, Anna. I've changed. I've worked on myself, and I swear I'll do whatever it takes to prove it to you." Anna listened quietly, her emotions swirling inside her. She wanted to believe him. God, she wanted to. She could see the sincerity in his eyes, the regret in his voice. But was that enough? Could it really erase everything that had happened between them? "You hurt me, David," she said quietly, her voice trembling. "You didn't just make mistakes, you broke me. You ignored me. You left me feeling worthless for so long. I don't know if I can ever forgive you for that." David lowered his gaze, guilt flashing across his face. I know I failed you, but I was lost, Anna. I let everything slip away from me, and I didn't know how to fix it. But I'm here now, and I want to show you. I want to prove to you that I'm not the same man who hurt you." There was a pause, a moment where Anna just stared at him, her heart torn between what she wanted to believe and the reality of what had happened. Could she really go back? Could she forgive him after everything? "I need time, David," she finally said, her voice barely above a whisper. "I can't just forget all the pain, but I need to know if you're really ready to change. I can't do this again if it's going to be the same." David nodded, his eyes pleading with her. "I'll wait. I'll do whatever it takes." Anna stood up, her legs shaky beneath her. "I need to think. I need to figure out who I am, what I want." David watched her, his eyes filled with desperation and hope. "Anna, please, don't walk away from me again." She looked at him one last time, then turned toward the door. As she stepped outside, the weight of everything she had learned and felt pressed down on her. This wasn't just about David anymore. This was about her, about whether she could truly forgive, whether she could move forward with him, or if it was time to let go for good. Anna drove away from the house, her mind heavy with everything that had just transpired. The words David had spoken echoed in her mind, each one tugging at her heart, but they weren't enough to drown out the years of hurt, the years of silence. The drive back to her apartment felt longer than it had ever been, the weight of the decision she was about to make pressing on her chest. Could she forgive him? Could she return to the man who had broken her, who had neglected her in ways she couldn't ignore? Or was the damage too deep to heal? The thoughts swirled in her mind like a whirlwind. She remembered the love they had once shared, the way he had held her on those cold nights when they were first married, the way he had made her feel cherished. But those memories were clouded by the years of indifference, the words left unsaid, the promises broken. Was love enough to fix what had been broken? She reached her apartment, but instead of feeling relief, a deep unease settled in. She stepped inside, her gaze drifting to the empty space. For the first time in years, she didn't feel the weight of someone else's expectations. It was just her. She sat down on the couch, staring at the floor, trying to make sense of everything. A part of her wanted to call him, to tell him she'd come back, that she was willing to give him a second chance. Another part of her wanted to never see him again, to walk away from the past and move forward alone. The future seemed uncertain, and the choices before her were not easy. As the evening wore on, Anna thought back to her time in the house with David. She saw the pain in his eyes, the regret that had flooded his face. She knew he was sincere, that he had worked hard on himself. But was that enough? Could she trust that things would be different? In the stillness of the night, Anna closed her eyes, seeking clarity, trying to listen to her heart. The truth was, she had spent so many years trying to fix someone else, trying to make a marriage work that was already broken. But in doing so, she had lost herself. It was time to find her own path. The next morning, Anna woke early. She took a long walk by herself, something she hadn't done in a while. The air was crisp, and the world felt fresh with possibility. As she walked through the park, her thoughts settled. She didn't have to make a decision in one moment. She didn't have to rush into anything. For the first time in years, Anna felt like she was allowed to choose her own happiness, regardless of what anyone else wanted. By the time she returned home, she had made her decision. She dialed David's number, her hand shaking slightly. The phone rang, and for a moment she wondered if she was making a mistake. But then David picked up. "Anna?" His voice was soft, hesitant. "I've thought a lot about everything," Anna began, her voice steady. "And I think it's time for both of us to move on. I need to live for me, David, not for us, not for the past, just for me." David was silent on the other end. She could hear the pain in his silence, but she couldn't let it change her decision. I'm sorry, David. I truly am. But I can't go back to the way things were. There was a long pause before he spoke again, his voice low. I understand. I've hurt you too much. I just wanted to make it right, but I can see now. It's too late. Anna's heart broke, but she held firm. Maybe someday we'll both be okay, but right now I have to be on my own. I wish you nothing but happiness, Anna, David said, his voice choked with emotion. I wish you the same, Anna whispered before ending the call. As she stood there, holding the phone in her hand, she felt a sense of peace wash over her. It wasn't an easy decision, and it wasn't one she had taken lightly, but it was the right one for her. Anna knew there would be days ahead when she would wonder if she had done the right thing, but deep down, she knew that sometimes, in order to move forward, you had to leave the past behind. And so she walked away, not just from David, but from the woman she had been when she was with him. It was time to build a new life, a life where she was in control, a life where she could finally be free. The road ahead was uncertain, but for the first time in years, Anna was ready to face it head-on, knowing that she had the strength to overcome whatever came her way.